the business. So are you going live now? Okay. Bear with me. This is my first full council, so I feel like the Christian being sent off to the lions. The business. So right. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the November full council. Really? Did you hear what I said? Okay. It's the agenda for the November full council. The first item is apologies for absence.
So I've received apologies from councillors Adams, Fredericks, Hayman, Hynink, Housden, Perry Warnes, Punchard, Stockton, Barley and Yassini.
Thank you. You've all received the minutes for the last meeting, which was held on the 22nd of September. Can I have a proposer for the acceptance of the minutes, please? Councillor John Toy and seconded by Councillor Seward. Can we have a show of hands if you're in agreement with these? That's unanimous. To receive declarations of interest from members. Has anybody here got any declarations, pecuniary or I like non-pecuniary ones too? So please, if you do have any. No, nobody has any interest. Okay, fine. We'll go on. No items of urgent business as far as I'm aware. No, and we now go to Chairman's communications, which welcome, it says. There we go. I have been to two civic meetings. The one was the reception at the Fakenham Racecourse, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And as you can see, we have an illustration of the decorated firemen's helmets, which were lovely. And I don't know the were these the people from Mind who are here? And it was a very nice evening, and good food. It was lovely, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And the second one I've been to was I led the ceremony for the Remembrance Day here on last Thursday at the Poppy Memorial, and we were very lucky with the weather because sometimes it can be dreadful, but it was really nice. And it was a nice day, and quite a number of people from the officers turned up for that service. And thank you very much to Eric and John and Chris for also attending and representing the different parties. So thanks. And that's it. Nothing else to report. That's very quick, right? That's that Chairman's report. This is me, Speedy Gonzalez. Now we've got leaders' announcements. I do believe that Eric is speaking on behalf of. You want to say something now? Oh, of Sarah. Sarah's going to say something to start with.
Thank you. I'd just like to say good evening to members. Because I have been away and only travelled back to Norfolk today following my family bereavement, Councillor Seward will be taking this evening's meeting for me. I'm just here to take part. Thank you.
And very nice to see you, Sarah. Right, over to you, Eric.
Right, I just have, Madam Chairman, I just have one announcement to make. It's in relation to Greenbuild. Greenbuild, our flagship environmental event, was held remotely this year due to COVID concerns. We were not wishing the public to miss this event for 2 years running, so the council ran a virtual event. It consisted of a series of online talks and briefings on a wide range of topics, all related to climate change. Topics range from sea commercial weed growing to micro gardens, our fabulous chalk reef, coastal adaptation, and sessions on rewilding, passive home building techniques, and communal gardens. Our brilliant speakers kept both engaged and thrilled with their content. Timed to run concurrently with COP26, the events included 15 different speakers. We had over 600 participants, with many more expected to view them at their leisure online, which is available on our Greenbuild web pages. Feedback questionnaires have been submitted by attendees with very positive and complimentary comments from the public, the press, and indeed other councils and businesses. I should like to thank the climate change team, Rob, Tracy, Nigel and Annie, for organising the event. It was innovative in its approach, has put this council at the forefront among its peers on informing and educating our residents on many aspects of climate change, whilst explaining our own aspirations to reduce our own carbon footprint and increase biodiversity across our region. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd just now like to pass to Councillor Virginia Gay, who wishes to make a brief announcement on the reef.
Thank you so much, Eric. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the news to which you have all been looking forward. On November the 11th, the certificate of practical completion for the reef was issued. It is with the greatest pleasure that I can report to you tonight that the reef will open on Tuesday, November the 30th. And Felix Brueggemann has created another charming video for us, which Emma Denny is kindly going to play, and there will be more information arriving for everybody momentarily, I think. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I think that was lovely. Lovely to see it open or on the brink of opening. Do you wish to say anything else, Virginia? Is that it?
Not tonight, thank
Okay,
you, Chairman.
thank you. Now we go on to public questions and statements. And I have a Mr. David Russell who wishes to speak. Would you like to come up?
Hello, members of the council. For those who don't know me, I'm David Russell, past member for the Old Hickling Ward, 1995, 1999, past vice chairman, 1996, 97, past chairman, 1997, 1998 of this council. Firstly, may I thank Emma Denny and for you, chairman, for arranging and allowing me to speak. And the words could be very few. It is important that regardless of the political allegiance, all councillors represent and serve their communities to which they are elected, as both Philip Kemp and Des Hewitt did, as I'm sure that Steve Bletch may be able to testify. Might I ask that it be remembered in silent tribute by those here in this chamber tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. I wasn't serving then, but I'm sure one or two of you may well have been, but it was very good of you to give that little. Thank you. Now, I also have a written statement from Elaine Addison, which I'm going to read out. It's concerning the motion on the sewage. And it was felt that this was the correct place to read it out rather than with the motion. It's just that it's her personal statement. She says, "Dear councillors, I fully support this motion. I have been appalled by the reckless and near total disregard for water safety by the privatised water companies in England and successive government failure to enforce investment in water infrastructure. Coupled with the disastrous cut to the funding of the Environment Agency by 2/3 since 2010, it seems the electorate are being taken for mugs, whilst water company shareholders are creaming off profits. To note that more than 70% of England's water industry is owned by foreign investors. Anglian Water is owned by a consortium of international investment funds. These include Colonial First State Global Asset Management Australia, IFM Investors Australia, and 3i UK. Over 30% of the company is owned by the Canadian Pension Plan Investment Board, a pension fund owned by the Canadian state. Of course, we need to protect rivers, the Norfolk Broads and coastal waters for recreational swimming, water sports, and to protect the wildlife reliant on the clean environment. However, I was also interested to read a report in yesterday's Observer newspaper and wondered how Anglian Water's approach is affecting our seafood industry in North Norfolk. It seems that E. coli in our drinking water has increased recently across the southeast, which is suspected to be caused by a failure in the water cleaning process. This, put simply, is untreated sewage flowing into our rivers. We have also seen cases of norovirus increasing during the summer months, quite out of season. While it is difficult to pinpoint the source of norovirus, it should be noted that norovirus can live in water for months. This is an extremely unpleasant virus, but it could also be catastrophic for our seafood industry. The Observer includes a report from an oyster company in the southeast stating that norovirus, I think it's nothing, incidents have recently occurred after eating oysters. This resulted in Public Health England closing the company down until they had put in place testing for norovirus and E. coli. I certainly support NNDC's engagement with Anglian Water, but would also support NNDC in urging our government to tighten up restrictions and bring forward tougher legislation. I'm afraid the fines are cheaper than investment in infrastructure. Government agencies such as the EA and DEFRA are no match for these companies in their present form, and privatised water companies have no incentive to go further than the absolute minimum required by law. Investment in infrastructure must be part of their service level agreement. Having written to Duncan Baker MP several times on this matter, it seems that government are going to await water companies' reports on future plans before they make any further decisions, kicking the can down the road on such an important matter. Thank you for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Madam Chair, just going to say, I'd like to thank Elaine Addison for her statement. This is a subject which is likely to be discussed later in a motion. I don't want to preempt that discussion. This meeting is recorded, and Elaine Addison and the people who are concerned about these issues, I would suggest that I will hope that she will realise this council does have an interest in the matters that she's raised. Thank you.
Yes, and I'd like to thank Mrs. Addison for her report. Now, on to item 8, appointments to committees, subcommittees, working parties and outside bodies. Do any group leaders have any changes? No, very much. We've now pass on to item 9. We have to appoint a vice chairman for the Employment and Appeals Committee. Nominations will be received at the meeting. Has anyone got a nomination? Yes, Eric.
Yes, I would like to suggest the appointment of Councillor Angie Fitch-Tillett, who is a serving member of the Employment Appeals Committee.
Any other appointments? Nominations?
I'd just like to second that nomination, please.
Yeah, thank you. Seconded by. Can we have a show of hands? Anybody approve? Anybody against? And no abstentions? Unanimous. Angie, are you willing to take this?
Thank you very much, members, for your confidence in me. I look forward to serving on this. I do have some, what I used to call personnel experience through previous lives, now called HR. So I hope I can bring a balance to this committee.
Thank you. Thank you for your acceptance. We now go to item 10, portfolio reports. Now, you've all had the written reports here. I'm not going to ask the cabinet members to read them out, but I will ask them if any of them have any extra points they want to make before I open this up for members' questions. No. Then members, you have 30 minutes, roughly 30 minutes per 3 minutes per question. Can you please, anybody who'd like to speak? Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to start off by asking Councillor Seawood, who's standing in for Councillor Butikoff, a question, if I may. I'd like to take you back to the December Council last year, where a Conservative-inspired motion was passed with the full support of councillors, which recognised the hugely valuable support of social care professionals in our community. And specifically, I'll just remind everyone, it said that NNDC to support the Developing Skills and Social Care project. The Cabinet member will be identified as a member who will take responsibility for supporting this valuable project and championing it at strategic level. This Cabinet member will report to full council on a regular basis. And a member of staff will be appointed as a lead officer supporting this project of the DSHSC project team and project partners to promote the initiative and promote links to wider initiatives across North Norfolk, collate information on the implementation of the project in North Norfolk, and help address any barriers to individuals joining the scheme. I have to say, I don't recall hearing about anything about this in the 11 months since. Why is this, may I ask, and what is happening in relation to the actions that the council passed? Thank you.
I thank Councillor Cushing for his question. I think Councillor Gay is going to be best placed to answer this.
Thank you. First of all, there has been a report on this in the portfolio holders' reports. I can't tell you exactly the dates were on which this was entered in the reports, but it has been. I have also replied to Councillor Dixon on this. The situation has been that this is essentially a county project, and county has put money into it, so it has been difficult for us to make a useful contribution. However, there have been some actions from this council, one of which I know has been reported back to you, which is we were pursuing TIC Friendly for Carers Employment Scheme. So if, as I say, I can't give you the exact dates, Councillor Cushing, but there have been reports on this matter, and the designated officer was Sonia Schutter, and I was the portfolio holder. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor Cushing?
Thank you. I just wonder, Councillor, whether we might have an update in your next portfolio update for the December meeting.
Certainly, I will do my best to do that, Councillor Cushing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Spagnura.
Thank you, Lady Chair. I'd just like to ask Councillor Fitch-Tillett. As a Cromer member, I really welcome the development of the sea defence schemes in Cromer. Can I ask when this work may start?
How long is a piece of string? No, it's not exactly that. We are at the stage where, as you know, we've been out to local liaison groups. They were very interactive. Mark McDonald's, who are consultants, took on board several suggestions from the local people, which were very helpful. So they are now finalising the exact contract that will go out to tender in the new year. We are hoping to start sort of after the summer holidays in next year, but there's two provisos for that. First of all, there is, as everybody knows, a huge shortage of construction materials. So it's very much watch this space, but the contract will be awarded probably in time, I would hope, for just after our February full council. And then we will have a clearer picture of when we'll start. It's going to be quite exciting because we will be bringing in rock armour by barge. And if everybody remembers the lovely Ham 318 that we had sitting on the skyline for the sandscaping, we're going to have barges come back. So I'm really looking forward to that. And obviously, again, it will be a bit of a tourist attraction. So you'll get more people standing on the seafront watching it. But I will update as soon as I can in respect to the contract award.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor John Rest.
Thank you, Chair. My question is actually for Councillor Fredericks, but I realise she isn't actually here. Maybe one of her colleagues might have an answer. If not, I'll send her an email.
Okay.
It relates to page 19 of her report on new affordable homes. And I really wanted clarification on the numbers because they're slightly different. One is 163 and then it's moved up to 164. but I can't see where it's been added to. And I just wonder if there was further clarification to that. But I'm happy if no one's got it, I'll send her an email.
Has anybody got an answer from the cabinet for that one?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that one.
So a written answer would be okay, John, would it?
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
But we'll get a written answer.
Can you do that, Eric? Can you get that through if she's not back?
So the question, just to make sure that I've got
Yeah.
the question right, it's a clarification of the number of new affordable homes in 21-22, whether it's 163 or 164.
Please, yeah,
Right.
thank you.
I've got Saul Penfold, Councillor Saul Penfold. Was there somebody else wanted to speak? Gerard. Councillor Penfold.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, members. While we're on housing, I just wondered if I might ask Cabinet, I think, as Councillor Fredericks isn't here, what our position is on shared housing. Thank you.
I think you're referring to shared ownership.
I apologise, shared ownership, yeah.
The council's position is that this has been encouraged and welcomed as an option for affordable housing to encourage people to not only be able to be part of the housing market. As members may have heard me say on a number of occasions, we're dealing with, in the case of housing, a broken market. And in the grand scheme of things, there's only a limited amount that the council can do. But what has arisen recently is there's been a number of family or household situations where they've not been able to access social housing, where mortgages were not available to those households. And following discussions with the housing officers, an option emerged that if in fact a grant was made to the housing provider concerned, then housing could be provided in these particular cases. So that's how it actually arose. It was designed to deal with a situation that's here at the present time to actually house properly families that are facing homelessness. But the council remains committed to shared ownership. There will be further planning applications that will be coming before us for housing schemes in the next 12 months, and shared ownership will be playing its part in it, and I can reassure the council that it will. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, yes.
Councillor Mancini Boyle. One question, please, Gerard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a question to Councillor Lloyd, please, if I may. The recent COP26 summit in Glasgow came to a decision to phase out the burning of fossil fuels. With the government's grant of £5,000 from next April for renewables, heat source pumps, etc., are you planning to have talks with builders to phase out the installation of soon-to-be redundant gas boilers? And will you consider using HVO fuel for our waste contract fleet? Thank you.
We've been encouraging our developers that make applications to switch over to more benign methods of heating homes. I was only talking yesterday to Hopkins Homes, who are proposing a development in North Walsham, 350 homes, and they're planning to heat all of those with heat pumps. So the answer's yes. I'm not sure COP26 agreed to phase out fossil fuels at all, actually, Gerard. Rather underwhelmed by the outcome of that. But I guess it's down to interpretation. What was your last question about
HVO fuel for the
HVO
waste
fuel.
contract?
Yeah, that Serco have been trialling that in other areas, and we're actually waiting for the outcome. Be interesting to see. I'm talking to them in a couple of weeks' time, beginning of December, again for an update. But certainly we're encouraging them, and you would have noticed, or you might have noticed, the press statements and releases that went out about them now deploying electric vehicles for grounds maintenance and toilet maintenance, etc. And I think that's a really positive step. And we've encouraged them to do that, and now they've done it.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
councillor Lord.
Councillor Pearce.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think this one may well go to Richard Kershaw, if he could give us an answer, please. It was reported in the Eastern Daily Press on the 5th of November that Chris Packham, the naturalist and television presenter, said that in order to help save the environment, North Norfolk District Council should close some of its car parks to restrict movements. Should this happen, obviously this will affect our income rather drastically. I also would point out that this make it very difficult to tourists to come and park or keep themselves in our district, so that they may like to enjoy the benefits that we so ambly present. So therefore, I would ask, can we have someone to say that we reject this policy because it is not a clever move? Thank you.
Who's answering this one?
I'm happy to answer this one.
Okay.
I don't think that's what Chris Packham said. I said he thought the consideration might be needed in order to preserve spaces. He didn't suggest it was a policy. We've never had this policy, and we will not be adopting this policy. I think it's just the way you read the report, Councillor Pearce. Thank you.
Thank you.
I contest that, Madam Chairman, for the simple reason is it is how people read one thing or another. And at the end of the day, the fact that you said that you would never attack this policy, surely you would reject this suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? For the portfolio holders, the cabinet? No? Who's there? Oh, Victoria. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's very kind. I've got a question for Councillor Lloyd. What is NNDC doing about EVCP installation at parish level, please?
Thanks for the question. We're just completing off our installation of the final EVCP in North Walsham. That should come online very shortly. We have an action in our which you would have reviewed at ONS, I'm sure, to review car park EVCP provision in the wider areas of the district. I have to say that the government have not been very forthcoming in giving us assistance and aid for this. We managed to, were successful to get a grant for OLEV, which is kind of restricted to populated areas where people don't always have access to driveways. But in the wider district, it might be a little bit more difficult. The other thing that Councillor Halliday should recognise is that our electricity system is, we are not blessed with the best electricity system in this part of the world, and in some areas we have been talking to UK Power Networks, and there are some areas where they just can't support EVC charging. It has to be a very low and slow charge, unfortunately, but we are working with them to get that situation improved. And as part of a wider scheme, we do plan to roll these out. I would like to say that as a district council, we were one of the first to start deploying these, and others are now following our lead on it. So I think we're doing all right. I think there's more to be done, but we need more help from government.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Halliday?
Well, I think West Norfolk are rolling out a scheme with OZEV and BP Pulse to parish and town councils, actually, where the cost is 100% borne by other parties. So that's the sort of thing we were thinking might be quite helpful.
Thank you. Thank you. I must say, for the first time yesterday, I did see a Serco electric vehicle in the car park at Stalham Tesco filling up. So there we go. Any other questions? Just a moment. I've got, first of all.
It wasn't a question, it was just a comment on that last. May I
Can
make
you
it?
wait, please?
Of course.
Saul, because we've got another question. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Chairman. My question is to Councillor Lloyd, and it is this: we have planted to date some 20,000 trees. We are on track to increase this to 40,000 trees by the end of March next year. And my question is, does he welcome the adoption of the new tree strategy and acknowledges the work that officers have put into formulating the tree strategy so that we can make a valid improvement to our environment? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Brown. Yeah, the tree planting programme is going well. We have over 20,000 in the ground before this season started. We've had 10,000 go in Trunch, 1,000 recently at Cromer High School, with many projects yet to come. I think we're looking, if all goes well, to plant around about 40,000 trees across the district in various locations. So yeah, it's been a challenge for the team, and thank you for pointing that out. They've worked really hard. There's been a huge amount of engagement with the communities, businesses, schools, parishes, and lots of tiny schemes, lots of, we're responding to every request we get. And yeah, we're on track to meet our target of a tree for every resident in the district. And if I can take this opportunity with your forbearance, Madam Chair, we have a tree giveaway day at Holt Country Park on the 27th of November, 10 till 2.
Yeah,
all are welcome.
Does that answer your question, Andrew? Thank you. Officer Blatch wishes to make a statement or say something, or?
I believe that the tree strategy was discussed at Overview and Scrutiny Committee as a pre-scrutiny item and is yet to move forward formally through Cabinet for adoption, and then it will come to full council. So there will be other opportunities for members to comment on the document as it makes its way through that process in the coming weeks.
Right. Any other questions before I go back to Councillor Penfold for a comment? Right, Councillor Penfold, you may comment.
Oh, thank you. It was just to comment on Councillor Halliday's question about the electric vehicle charging points in parish. Just to say, we have had applications come in from parish councils to the Sustainable Community Fund panel. Obviously, it's cross-party. We've grappled with those. We've gone back and asked for further information. And we're just sort of working out how that panel fits in with the wider policies and strategies that we have as a council. But we are minded as a panel that we probably will have more applications come in. One, for example, from Cly. I think they also applied to Sheringham Shoal and were successful in that. So I imagine it's something we will have more of, and we may well fund from that panel. That depends, but how it fits into our wider picture as well.
Thank you very much for that. Right, if we've completed, we'll now pass on to agenda item 11, recommendations from Cabinet, presented by Councillor Seward, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd just like to move this recommendation. It's been to Cabinet, it's been to Overview and Scrutiny. It is just a small change in relation to the operation of a hardship fund, which will probably help 5 or 6 households during the coming year. So I move the recommendations.
Thank you. The recommendations are going to be taken, the 2 recommendations en bloc. If members are happy, any comments on this? There's no need to take a vote. Oh, it's a hands vote. There is a hands vote, but no proposer. Yes, right. Eric, want to make some more comments? No. Sorry. No, I don't think we need we're just passing a vote as just a vote, please. So if you just raise your hands if you accept this. Unanimous. I don't think there are any against. No, unanimous. Thank you very much for that. We now turn to item 12, recommendations from the Overview and Scrutiny. It says here there were no further recommendations to council from the 13th of October. Councillor Dixon, do you have anything to add to this?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. No, there are no recommendations to move to full council. So That's fairly quick and easy. Thank you.
Thank you. Just accept that then. Now, the approval of the statement of licensing policy 2021 to 2022, 26, and the statement of principles under the Gambling Act policy 2022 to 2025. This will be presented by Councillor Lloyd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The council is required to publish a written licensing policy. The policy must be regularly reviewed to ensure that it continues to reflect current legislation and remains relevant to North Norfolk. A review and consultation has taken place. A few minor changes were made to improve the advice within the policy. I believe these to be non-controversial, and it falls upon full council actually to adopt the policy formally at this meeting, and I'm content to propose it for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we did have quite a discussion about this at the licensing committee. So can I have a proposer to accept this policy, this statement, licensing policy? Pierre Butikova proposing and seconded by Harry Blathwaite. Can we now have a show of hands for acceptance? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Now go on swiftly to questions received from members. Is that right? Am I on the right one? Yes. I don't think any have been received. Have you received any? No, not at all. And now on to item 15, opposition business. Please note the total time for this is 30 minutes, and I'm going to ask Councillor Dixon to present, and then I will ask Councillor Cushing if he wishes to comment or save his comments to the end. Right, Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I trust the motion speaks for itself, but I would like to give members some context as to where it comes from and why now. Local economies are the wealth and revenue creators essential to sustaining the people and fabric of the district. Most of what I quote is based on the situation and my knowledge of the east of the district, particularly east of North Walsham, but I suspect it's equally true for other parts. While tourism, agriculture and care sectors make up a large part of the economy, we rely on specialist businesses to provide and create locally based high-skill, well-paid career opportunities. These are the jobs that raise socioeconomic standards, reduce deprivation, and improve quality of life. Much has been done recently to improve education in schools and to raise aspirations and ambitions amongst our young people. Many leave the district to find suitable career jobs. Others have to travel to Great Yarmouth, Norwich, and beyond to find well-paid quality jobs. A few are fortunate enough to find jobs within their communities. If we are to meet the expectations of aspirant young people and create more sustainable communities, we have to do more to retain those specialist businesses and help them grow, because in many cases, that's exactly what they want to do. Some need infrastructure improvements, others need serious pump priming funding to turn plans into reality. We also need to convert more of those tentative inquiries from businesses outside the county, looking for sites and suitable premises to relocate in rural Norfolk in order to create more high-skill, well-paid jobs. We have to do more so that businesses want to come here and career-minded young people want to stay here. Business sustainability and growth is the key strand of the corporate plan that underpins the ultimate success of several other strands. So why now? We are well past the midpoint of this administration, and we've seen several major housing schemes delivered with more in the offing, and we need to rebalance priorities and up the investment in quality jobs and infrastructure. Otherwise, our towns and villages will simply become dormitories with high commuter carbon footprints and low socioeconomic performance. Hence, the motion calls for more effort to attract more inward investment by working more closely with the LEP, County Council and central government in creative ways to lever in grant and loan funding. If our neighbours can do it, so can we. Members, I commend the motion to and call on your support to deliver more action and tangible outcomes. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Cushing, do you wish to speak now or do you wish to reserve your right?
I will reserve my right, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kershaw, you wish to respond?
Yes, I would like to respond. Before I speak to respond, I did request 2 words would be changed in the motion. I haven't heard whether that's been accepted or not. Do you know?
Councillor Dixon, have you made a decision?
Unfortunately, I have to say that if we were to accept the word continue in place of redouble, we might as well not have the motion because basically nothing will change. And this motion seeks to achieve change. So the answer is I'm regretful that no, and I'm not sure whether neighbouring would, or rather similar, would replace accurately the word neighbouring either. So I don't think that they are appropriate.
Councillor Kershaw.
Well, thank you for that. In that case, I'll have to vote against this motion. Over the last 2 years, we have worked with Norfolk and Suffolk Economic Plan. We've improved our relationship with the LEP and secured funding for North Walsham House, Fakenham infrastructure projects, funding to help with withdrawal of water abstraction licenses in the Bure Valley, and to help relocate agri-tech businesses. However, it's evident from recent draft of the Norfolk and Suffolk Economic Plan that growth and investment is being concentrated towards the Norwich, Ipswich, Cambridge triangle. Plans for the Imperial Business Park around Norwich Airport, the Food Enterprise Zone, Science and Technology Park, and the recently announced Broadway Enterprise Park gives a clear indication where the County Council are focusing their efforts in line with the Levelling Up agenda. This is our competition in bringing forward competitive and viable employment land in our market and coastal towns. We do suffer constraints with regard to physical and digital infrastructure, transport and training. The growth in the offshore electricity production highlights the shortage of deep harbours to sustain offshore operations. It proves difficult, therefore, to bring forward speculative developments in light of weak investor confidence. Take-up of land at the Broadland Business Park has been slow. Manufacturing and distribution businesses have been undermined by retail and food outlets. They've yet to take up the properties. Over the last 20 months, we have been engaged with a wide range of businesses and have not seen the empty shops and larger stores that have been evidenced in some town centres. In Norwich, it has tripled in the last year. In fact, in the 2020 to 2021 business rates pool outturn report, North Norfolk had the 3rd highest saved levy, behind Kings Lynn and just behind South Norfolk, which indicates the growth in business rates and business activity in North Norfolk, something to be proud of. The contacts we have made with businesses and their feedback regarding the future have made us consider where our future lies, especially with the matter of climate change and sustainability. Over 25% of jobs in North Norfolk are in the tourism hospitality sector. We have a growing need in the care sector and agricultural sector that needs to adapt to climate change. There has been growth in the digital sector, although this has been hampered by the slow rollout of fast broadband and poor mobile connectivity. We have engaged with the hospitality sector to improve the offering here and have seen investment from the Chestnut Group in Holton Weyburn, the recent purchase of the Cliftonville Hotel, the opening of the Harper Hotel and Suffield Arms, all to great acclaim. We're also working with several partners to expand ecotourism and are in negotiations with companies to assemble and distribute eco-built houses for affordable housing sector in West Raynham. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kershaw. Councillor Rest, you wish to speak?
Thank you, Chairman. It would have been nice to have seen some actual projects listed instead of all the things that they think haven't been done. Or even some vague ideas would have been useful. Or are they not yet collated or costed that they can put them forward? You state in number 2 of your proposal, the points work with partners. Are members of this council not your partners that you can divulge to them? Could I also request that if you manage to be in a position at any time to implement any of these projects, that this time you take extra care in assessing their long-term risk to the council? Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Rest. Councillor Seward.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. When you're talking about business and economic growth, a lot of what Councillor Dixon said in terms of what he would like to see happening and aspiration, I fully agree with. But that has to be grounded in evidence and it has to be grounded in fact. Indeed, as someone who spent the first 20 years of my life in a sub post office and general stores, if you didn't recognise you had to have customers through the door and you had to take the money, you didn't survive. It was as straightforward and as simple as that. Aspirations just weren't good enough. So when I looked at the preamble of this motion, it states about very little evidence of multi-agency work with adjoining districts. Wrong. I recall sitting on a Norfolk leaders meeting earlier this year when there was a bid by Great Yarmouth Borough Council for a very significant sum to deal with the regeneration of the town centre and the harbour. This council, I'm pleased to say, readily supported that bid. That support was not so easily forthcoming, I can tell you, from some of the other district councils. And the reason I did that was simple. If we're talking about residents east of North Walsham, the more growth you have in Great Yarmouth, the more jobs that it can attract from residents that are living closer to Great Yarmouth in North Norfolk. It also says little evidence of work with the New Anglia Local Enterprise Partnership. Really? So why have we got £1.3 million into North Walsham for the Heritage Action Project? If that isn't close working, I don't know what is. And then there is the County Council. Well, in terms of the developments in Fakenham, I recall proposing and agreeing £900,000 to support the county with the Fakenham roundabout. So we're working closely with the county to support regeneration in Fakenham. And again in North Walsham. One of the positive, very positive things that's come out of the Heritage Action Project, we're now talking meaningfully and in a deliverable way about having a new bus interchange on one of our car parks in the town, which will not only make the town a safer place for people to shop, but will also help the community's well-being. So in terms of the actual evidence, there's plenty of evidence there. You just need to look for it. Now, in terms of recognising the growing gap between and the tangible outcomes, look, what this council has had to do in the last 12 months is to provide support to businesses in what has been the most difficult time for many of them in our living memory as a result of the COVID pandemic. It was a successful outcome. Over £126 million was distributed quickly and efficiently to nearly 5,000 small businesses, the heart of our local business economy. It was so successful, in fact, we were congratulated by a government minister. So successful, we actually won a national award for the digital scheme we developed for doing it. But even more so, we then got another £760,000 for the Business Recovery and Resilient Grant to support small businesses because we've been so good at getting that money out. That came from the government. And even this morning, I attended a briefing with the Norfolk and Suffolk LEP on their economic plan. And what drum was I banging again? Well, as Councillor Kershaw said, we need more help to stop the pull from the Greater Norwich Thetford corridor. That is a pull that previous leaders of this council have frequently talked about, and it's a drum that is still being banged that we want some help here and not, it doesn't end at Greater Norwich. So I put all that to the council's attention tonight. When you're talking about economic growth, and I noticed we were asked to do more to attract people from outside onto sites. But this kind of thing doesn't stop or start with one administration or end with another. It's a long-term business. And I just can finish by saying this. As you come into North Walsham from Cromer, I can easily think of 3 sites that have been designated for employment land. They were empty when I came onto this council in 2007. They remain empty today. I think that shows the struggle and the context in which we're dealing with, because I don't like to see land that's designated for employment remaining empty. I want to see thriving and successful businesses there. And I just wish we could get a bit more help from government at time to stop people hoarding land when we want jobs. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Penfold, can I remind council, please, that we only allocate 30 minutes unless I give my approval to extend this. So can you please be quite sharp with your questions or your statements?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I shall try. It's really following on from Councillor Rest's point. I've been in many meetings with Councillor Cushing, some of them even enjoyable, but he's very keen in those meetings to pull apart the wording of a policy document, a strategy or a plan, labelling words imprecise, vague or meaningless. Sometimes, just sometimes, he has a point, but you can't do that and at the same time present what I think here is a motion that is guilty of doing exactly the same. Let me give you some examples. It starts, the preamble starts with the words, "There's mounting concern." From whom and where? You'd usually follow the words, "There's mounting concern," with the word "from" or amongst, but there's nothing here to substantiate it, just a vague and imprecise beginning. I think I know where the concern really is mounting, and that's in the North Norfolk Conservative Party's strategy department. They're in panic mode. They recognise what an excellent job this Lib Dem administration and council is doing. The preamble goes on to use such vague phrases as "there are reasons to suggest," without further explanation or backing, and again with no evidence or data. Part 3 of the motion itself asks the council to get alongside local businesses. Get alongside. I'm sorry, I don't know what that even means. It's vague, it's vacuous. So, councillors Dixon and Cushing, please, in the future, don't pick apart other documents when what you've presented here is poor. I think otherwise you're in real danger of becoming caricatures of yourselves. And that's okay, because we're just in time for pantomime season. It's a poorly worded document, a poorly worded motion. I'm afraid I can't support it.
Thank you, Councillor Blathwaite. Councillor Blathwaite, did you want to speak? Sorry, I have to speak deeply into this. Councillor Blathwaite.
Sorry, I've got you now. Yeah, actually, I just thought I'd like to cheer Councillor Dixon up. In his own ward, the boat building industry is absolutely thriving with full order book. Every business I have spoken to in that business have been praising their support they have received from this council. And so actually, I cannot support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Shires.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to bring some data in, I have done a little bit of research. In comparison to both the England and Norfolk averages, the most recent data shows that North Norfolk has a higher percentage of residents in employment. North Norfolk has a higher percentage of residents who are self-employed. North Norfolk has a higher percentage of science and maths apprenticeships. North Norfolk residents are hardworking. We have a higher percentage of those who work over 45 hours a week. The data shows that we are continuing to close the gap for North Norfolk resident salaries alongside the England average. There is a question when you look at how far our residents are away from further and higher education. We have got the lowest number of residents across Norfolk who are within 30 minutes of higher education, and the lowest percentage of residents who are within 60 minutes of education. And that is something that massively needs to be addressed if we are to ensure that our young people who have been mentioned are leaving the area are to get the education that they need to get the careers that they deserve.
Thank you, Councillor Shines. Now, Councillor Cushing, do you wish to bring in your right to reply at this point, and then Councillor Dixon, you will be able to finish. So Councillor Cushing first.
Yes, by all means, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, and indeed, thank you for the comments. That is elicited, which is obviously quite passionate, as one would expect. Our contention still is this administration is not doing enough. When Councillor Penfold rightly mentions that I often hold the administration to account in meetings, well, actually, that's actually been my job, I think, to do that. I don't think you can probably deny that. And I often do go back to the corporate plan. And obviously, in the recent overview and scrutiny meeting, we have been looking through the corporate plan in some detail. And we'll look at the business, boosting business growth section theme in there. I mean, they've got a lot of the right actions in there, but so I'll just read some of those. Formulate an economic growth strategy for 2020, 2023 to provide a framework for activities to facilitate growth and investments. And the comment in there, progress delayed due to COVID. Complete a growth sites delivery strategy to realise local growth and investment opportunities. Comment in there, progress delayed due to COVID. Develop a range of engagement tools to build relationships with businesses. Comment, progress delayed due to COVID. Develop a mechanism for providing suitable support to assist in establishment and growth of business startups and micro businesses, including establishment of virtual business hub. Comment, progress delayed to COVID. Now, on that basis, then, now Councillor Seawood states a whole load of examples. If you have got a lot of examples, I'm rather surprised to see they're actually not in your performance updates in your corporate plan, as opposed to saying progress delayed due to COVID. And we have mentioned here the success made of local Conservative councils. I know in a previous meeting, and indeed Councillor Seawood mentioned the excellent progress made in Great Barmouth Borough Council. The same would certainly go for our neighbouring Broadland District Council. And you look at the numbers in those districts in terms of the investment they're getting in, they make the numbers we have in North Norfolk quite paltry by comparison. It's been well publicised that there's been the Food Innovation Centre Park at Easton. That has cost about £11.4 million, £10 million of that has been secured in grants. They've got a lot of businesses, I think actually other members here mentioned around the Northern Distributor Road, around the A47, a new Broadland Business Gate Park. They're doing a lot of money with helping shops get online, repurposing business fronts. But the key there, which I think someone's mentioned, is working collaboratively with other councils. And the thing of concern that I do have in North Norfolk, that it does at times feel like it's glorious Liberal Democrat isolation, not wanting to work with other councils around here. If you talk to other councillors, and I do because they're members of my own party, in Broadland, in Breckland, Great Yarmouth, they all work very closely with each other. And the challenge is, okay, you may not be the same parties, but what can you do to work with them? There is a lot of wealth created on that Norwich-Cambridge tech corridor. Why aren't your administration trying to do what you can to secure some of that wealth and bring it up here? That's a concern I do have. I hear a lot about the Heritage Action Zone, and I welcome that for North Bolsham, that's good, but I'm looking around the rest of the district. Well, what else outside North Bolsham that really hits the headlines are you doing? And particularly looking at my own Fakenham, okay, we're getting some money for a roundabout. Truth and honesty, that in itself is probably not going to benefit many of the members of the town. Other than that, the feedback I get from Fakenham is that North Norfolk Cromer seems a long way away and we don't really get a lot of help from them. And certainly there doesn't seem to be a fair distribution of of the support and help outside that the rest of the district gets. That tends to be focused on North Walsham. I think I've lost somebody. Sheringham and Cromer. In terms of that. So just in summary, this is the third, I think a councillor, I'm told, marks the third anniversary when the Liberal Democrats took partial control of the council and clearly on a coalition basis and full control in May 2019. I think what's done so far is poor by comparison with your other councils. I would not see them as competitors. I would try and work with them as best you can in terms of doing that. Don't really see the joined up thinking with the planning department. I think the securing of government grants is extremely poor, and we clearly had the failure to get the Community Renewal Fund for Fakenham and North Walsham last week, which is very disappointing. No, certainly it's very disappointing in Fakenham for people I've been talking through.
And can I just interrupt you for one moment to Councillor Cushing, because we are getting towards the end of the 30 minutes, and I do want Nigel to have his right if he wishes to speak.
Well, you cut me off my prime, Madam Chair.
So,
but,
I'm so
that's
sorry.
fine.
Well, let's see
I'm
if you can
drawing
get
to a close.
See if you can get your prime back.
I will do my best. Thank you. I actually going to pull it to, it was going to draw into a conclusion. The key point, a lot of mention is made of COVID. Why is it that other Conservative councils in the district have forged forward and done an awful lot and have not hidden behind COVID during this period? And it's written all over your documents when you look at it. Can't do this because of COVID. It's not an excuse other ones are using, and it's demonstrated by what they're actually delivering. So on that basis, well, I will conclude on that basis. It's highlighting a concern that we have, one that I'm sure we'll continue to highlight. And indeed, I'm sure Councillor Penfield would like to certainly be scrutinising in the many meetings which he and I share. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Now, Councillor Dixon, you have 5 minutes. I think that, well, usually you're fairly smart, so off you go.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I won't need all of the 5
No,
minutes,
I
you'll be
didn't
pleased to
think you
hear, but it would be, I think, appropriate for me just to summarise on some of the points that have been made. I will resist the temptation to be drawn down into detail on the matters that have been raised. This is really and truly a strategic motion. So I won't go. I won't be tempted to do that on this occasion. Nor do I underestimate the enormity of the task. Nobody said this was easy. So it's not about that. The motion doesn't claim that nothing is being done. So it is quite disingenuous to try and say that it doesn't recognise the effort and the results that are being achieved in the ways that you've mentioned. Nor is this about the distribution of central government funding to businesses either. This is about quality job creation and business growth in order that we should address those pockets of deprivation, significant pockets of deprivation and socio-economic problems that go alongside them. So, Madam Chairman, I will restrict my comments to those, but I do commend councillors to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very quick. 2 minutes, Nigel. That's not bad. Right. Now we have a proposition. We have Nigel Dixon proposing that we accept this motion, and Chris Cushing is seconding. Can we go for a vote, please? Are all those in favour? Would you please raise your hand? None. None. And all those against, please raise your hand. Two. And abstentions, please? None. Thank you. This has been defeated. Thank you. We now pass on to notices of motions. Again, it's 30 minutes for the two motions. That's 15 minutes each. So we have the first motion, which is proposed by councillor Rest and seconded by councillor Angie Fitch-Tillett, remote meetings to allow elected members to attend online. John, do you wish to speak to this?
Thank you, Chairman. In the past 6 months, there have been incidences where if we had a hybrid system in place for meetings, those members affected would have had some comfort that they could have participated and voted. In fact, our chairman, as we know, isn't here tonight, and neither, I believe, about 8 or 9 other members, for whatever reason, cannot participate in this. Over the last 18 months, we have all mastered the art of Zoom and Teams, and it would be a shame if we let that skill slip. I'm sure Democratic Services have evidence to show an increase in attendance by members via Zoom that have managed to join meetings. I also understand that the various training courses that have taken place will have attendance figures that speak for themselves. The future of the council services is at a critical juncture. We do not need to go back to the pre-pandemic ways. We need to retain the ability to make quick decisions with clarity of purpose that was a trademark of local authorities during COVID. Please support this motion. It speaks for itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fitch-Tillett, you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Obviously, I agree wholeheartedly with councillor Rest. And I would like to highlight some extra things. Line 5, I think it is, also in line with reducing carbon emissions to 0 by 2030. Now, I suspect that nearly everybody who came here this evening has come by car. They may have shared it with other people, but nevertheless, we have all emitted CO2 on our way here because of it. And also, just think about travel expenses that we all claim for, or most of us do. So that's coming out of the public purse. If we have the opportunity to actually do virtual meetings and vote, then we will save the public purse quite a lot of money. Councillor's time. Now, I'm quite lucky, I live just round the corner. But those of you who live in the west or the east, you know, you're travelling, you're emitting CO2, and you are wasting time. Because let's face it, I don't suppose many of us have actually come here tonight by public transport, where you can actually sit on either a train or a bus and read your agenda on the way. So that is just, you know, a lost bit of time. And I've got a couple of other things to say, which are not exactly against on this motion, but it's something I have worried about for quite some time.
And can you just hold it there then, if it's not on the motion?
Okay.
Because I want to, we only have 15 minutes and I want to open this to questions, and then you
Right.
can come back if need be.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody
I'll
wishes?
be quiet now.
Thank you. Eric.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would like to support this motion tonight. I think my group colleagues will probably do so as well. I think we do need to have more flexibility over how we have meetings. If they can do it in Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales, why can't we do it in England? And if you want to know how difficult a situation or ridiculous situation we've got ourselves into, I have a cabinet colleague who could participate fully in a pre-cabinet meeting yesterday. You can't be present here tonight to either answer members' questions or participate in the debate simply because she has COVID, she is recovering and is self-isolating. Now, why should she be denied the opportunity on behalf of her electors to fully participate in council business simply because of this rule?
Thank you. Councillor Toy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Firstly, Councillor Fitch-Tillett, you'll be pleased to know I came on my bike this evening, as I always try to do. But unfortunately, I live close enough and I appreciate we have a large district where people have to travel great distance. I fully support this motion.
primarily for the reasons of engagement. The engagement of members and public has been greatly increased by using remote connections. So I fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Spagnola.
As a mum of 2 disabled children, the Zoom meetings and team meetings have actually been a joy because it means that I can get here because I don't have to find childcare for 2 disabled children, which is non-existent. So I fully support this motion. I think it's a fantastic idea.
Any other members wish to speak? Yes, Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I recognise that this motion has many merits. But I think it's only right to mention some words of caution here, that unless it's bounded with specific grounds for why people aren't attending, then it could well turn out to be the thin end of a rather unfortunate wedge, a dangerous wedge, which would undermine the value and the significance of face-to-face meetings. And I don't believe that will be helpful in the long term. So I think my point here is that I'm quite happy to support the principle of it, but I wouldn't want to go ahead on this basis because, quite frankly, it's not developed enough. And I wonder if, instead of us perhaps making a decision in this way tonight, whether this is something for the Constitutional Working Party to develop and bring back to the council at a later date. So for those reasons, Madam Chairman, I will be abstaining, but I said quite clear I support the principle that I wouldn't want to move on the basis of this motion as it's currently worded. Thank you.
Councillor Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for online meetings. The fact that people can attend from the other side of the world if need be. But hybrid meetings are a different animal. They're neither online nor are they face-to-face. And having been to a lot of hybrid meetings over the past few years, hybrid meetings pre-COVID, I would say the participants the online participants tend to be second-class citizens, and their input to the meeting is not as great as if they're physically in the room. So I tend to think that hybrid meetings are actually worse than online-only meetings and worse than face-to-face only meetings. Therefore, I'm afraid while there's some good points in this motion, I can't support it because I think the council meetings would be lessened if they were turned into hybrid meetings.
Right, thank you. I've lost my little list. What have I done with it? Councillor Kershaw. I don't think there's anybody else, was there? Just, sorry, Councillor Penfold.
Thank you, Chair. I support this motion. I don't agree with Councillor Fitzpatrick on the inequality of hybrid meetings. I mean, they started off, the technology wasn't there, but recently we have held some very successful hybrid meetings in this chamber. And this morning we had a very complicated hybrid meeting with outside potential suppliers, which there were people in the building here, the people were away and individuals were at their home address, and it works really, really well. And if that hadn't been hybrid, those people would have had to come a long way to get here, and that's why I support it.
Thank you. Councillor Penfold, if you could be reasonably quick, please, because Angie wants to bring.
Of course. I do support the motion for the reasons stated, but I think Councillor Dixon does have a good point. And I just wonder if he would be reassured by the fact that the motion calls on the council to reinvestigate the feasibility of hosting hybrid meetings. So the motion is asking the council to investigate the feasibility of it, which may well answer his concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Our legal beagle wants to speak now. Cara?
Thank you. It's just a comment in regard to Councillor Dixon's suggestions. The motion is asking the leader to write to the Secretary of State to ask to consider this hybrid and remote meetings. It's not a matter that can simply go back to the Constitution Working Party, because there would need to be a change in the law to allow remote participation again.
Thank you. And now back to you, Councillor Fitch-Tillett. Do you wish to say something?
No, I didn't. I was indicating that Cara wanted to speak.
You're okay though. Yeah, all right. So we now have the proposition that has been put forward this by Councillor Rest, proposed and seconded by Councillor Fitch-Tillett, that we would wish to mandate the leader to write to the new Secretary of State to call for parity across the UK and enable councillors in England to meet and vote online as they see fit. Can we have acceptance for, please? You want to say before we vote?
Well, I'm just reflecting on the wording of the motion and the issues that have been raised. So it is a matter of fact that I believe the motion is intended to request or raise this matter with the Secretary of State, because you don't have the power technically in terms of the final sentence. This council reinvestigates the feasibility of hosting hybrid meetings in one room, such as the council chamber. Technically, that can be done. It has happened during the pandemic, but lawfully we wouldn't be able to do that. So I don't know whether the issue would be addressed by the omission of the last sentence, but that as an aspiration to see hybrid meetings or the ability for people to participate in hybrid meetings, whether you just go with the motion, the introductory paragraph, and then the letter from the leader to the Secretary of State, because at this time, I'm not sure that the final sentence actually adds anything in terms of the powers that are available to you. But I'll just raise that.
Okay, quickly, Councillor Rest.
I will be very quick, thank you. My only concern is that if we take anything out of it, it may lose some of the points I'm trying to raise. It's not the hosting necessarily, the hybrid meeting, it's the voting that we're not allowed to do. We can have a hybrid meeting, as has been pointed out. We've got one now. If people want, they may be able to speak. What we can't do, we can't vote. The government has stopped us voting. That is what this motion is for. In answer, just very quickly, in answer to Councillor Dixon, I perfectly understand what he's saying. I think if you're worried about some of your members taking advantage of it and not turning up at meetings, that is down to the group leaders to tell them that they need to attend. Thank you.
So are you saying that you want that sentence left in?
Yes, please.
Right. Okay, well, now we can go to a vote. This has been proposed and seconded, and we now go for a vote to call for the ability to be able to attend and vote online again. All those in favour? All those against? Abstentions, please. Thank you very much. This has been passed. Now we go to the reduction of sewage discharges. This again has a 15-minute time spot. And-
Madam Chairman, before we get into it, I have a request an amendment. So when you get to that point, can we discuss our group's amendment, please?
This is for the sewage one. Okay. Do we take them? This is proposed by Councillor Lloyd, seconded by Councillor Withington, and I'd like Councillor Lloyd to lead with this one at the moment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The recent change of heart by the government to accept the House of Lords recommendation to tighten controls on water companies and their continual sewage discharges into waterways and the oceans raised a lot of concerns among not only the public, but there was an outrage on social media. I then looked at, see if I could find some data. And so my first port of call was to the Anglian Water website and found that there was absolutely no data on sewage discharges across our region at all. I then looked and did further searches online, and the Rivers Trust have worked tirelessly to collect data and publish it regularly. This region has suffered a number of sewage discharges, not only on the coast, but inland as well. All I'm looking for here really is greater transparency from the water companies. I don't believe the recent vote by government, puts enough emphasis on reporting and the spend that's going to be required. All sorts of figures were bandied around about. We can't possibly ask them to clean up their act because it will cost 600 billion. No one's ever been able to verify that figure yet. And then I read in the papers yesterday, I can't verify this, but I'll relate it to members, that since privatisation, shareholders have had about 500 billion pounds from water companies. So in actual fact, the 600 billion is quite close to the 500 billion, and they could have cleaned up their act. So I'm putting this to members. I'd like to support it. It's not really political. It's about cleaning up our area. We've got blue flag beaches in Norfolk. We've got the chalk streams, and I think it's something that we should ask Anglian Water to come regularly to our council and basically report what they're doing.
Thank you. Councillor Withington, do you wish to speak now or do you wish to reserve till the end? Thank you. I now open this up to members who wishes to speak first. The amendments.
Yeah, if you
Oh,
just
sorry,
clarify what the process, I understood from previous times that the amendment normally goes before the debate. So would that now be an opportune time?
Yes, I stand corrected.
That's okay, Madam Chair. I mean, where we're coming from, actually, from my group's perspective, there's a lot of very good words in this motion, and we actually want to support it, very much so. In order to do so, we've actually asked for some minor tweaks, just to removal of 2 words, and then rewording of the proposal of number 3, which we believe actually strengthens what's written there. So if I may go to page, well, on the first page, if on the second proposal, 2A, it says the council is in agreement with the government U-turn. We would request that the words U-turn are removed. I'm told it was not a U-turn, it was the ping pong between the House of Lords and the House of Commons, which is the way legislation evolves. So if we can take that out, that will certainly enable us to vote for that. And then on the third section there, we actually suggest replacement wording, which is as follows. Request the Environmental Health Department engages with Anglian Water to ensure that sewage discharge events affecting North Norfolk are reported to NNDC as they occur, together with the details of action being taken to reduce and ultimately stop such events. This information is to be reported to members at least annually to full council or to another form or frequency as appropriate. I've got a copy here if you, the monitoring officer, would like to have a butcher's at it.
I'm afraid I'm a little bit lost. So at 2.
We have a pause for a moment or two. Have you stopped that?
This council in agreement with the government. That doesn't make sense. Remove U-turn. So this council is in agreement with the government on supporting the amendment.
So for clarity, councillor Cushing, are you just looking under 2A? This council is in agreement with the government omitting the words U-turn.
That's right.
And then report on supporting the amendment.
Yep.
So you're just looking for the remission of U-turn.
Yep.
Thank you. So I'm looking at three, we're looking at three now, I was just, yeah.
And then the amendments are usually something that are leaving out some words or adding words, but this looks as though it might be quite a significant difference, so I'll just have a read.
We're taking another moment now. Can't hear.
Madam Chair, can I say that these papers have been published a week? It would have been really helpful and saved everybody's time if Councillor Cushing would have approached me and had a chat about this before the meeting.
Noted.
It was only agreed relatively, given
So
our
the-
own timescales, relatively near to the meeting, Councillor Lloyd. So I'd accept the point you make there.
So I believe the proposition is to replace recommendation 3 at the bottom of the page in the agenda, and to replace the whole of those 4 lines with the following. Request the Environmental Health Department engages with Anglian Water to ensure that sewerage water discharge events affecting North Norfolk are reported to North Norfolk District Council as they occur, together with details of action being taken to reduce and ultimately stop such events. This information is to be reported to members at least annually to full council or to another forum or frequency as appropriate. So that would replace the recommendation or objective 3 in the motion, which proposes that Overview and Scrutiny Committee receives that periodic review.
Councillor Lloyd, do you have anything to say to that?
Yeah, I do actually, Madam Chair. I just think, I'm very happy to remove the word U-turn, that's fine. But I don't think it's Environmental Health's job to engage with Anglian Water. I think it's something that this whole council should embrace, and that the vehicle for doing that is through Overview and Scrutiny. And
So you wish that to remain?
I do, yeah. I think it's asking Overview and Committee, the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, to consider engaging with Anglian Water and to review discharge events. I think that's the right platform to do this. And I think the suggested amendment waters down exactly what happened in the Houses of Parliament, and we're letting them off the hook here. This council should be looking at this in order to protect the safety of our residents, our businesses, and our coastal areas. And in tandem with that comes our tourist industry. So I really think that scrutiny is the right place to do this. And it's up to the committee to decide, not Councillor Cushing.
Can I just ask Councillor Dixon, he wants to speak at this particular point?
Yes, I have to say that I don't agree with Councillor Lloyd for 2 or 3 reasons. I believe that this is an executive function, not a function of overview and scrutiny. This should happen by dint of relationships at officer level. And this particular amendment goes much further than the one that's been proposed in the substantive motion. In that, I believe that this council should be informed when those events occur, because there are actions that this council may want to take in terms of mitigation or how else they might be handled. And I don't believe that it is effective to ask for periodic reviews of serious discharge events in North Norfolk, because that's very vague. That's not being very precise. It's quite honestly rather weak. And moreover, it is the job of Overview and Scrutiny Committee to ensure that that relationship that should exist, in my view, between at officer level, departmental level, at professional level, with an agency that provides the services as it does across the district, that should be the level at which this communication is made. Overview and scrutiny can and would be quite happy to scrutinise whether that relationship is working effectively. And if it isn't working effectively, then it would want to take appropriate action. But it is, in my view, executivizing the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, which is not really what it's meant to be. So to that extent, I hope I'm making some kind of sense here. I don't think, in principle, I don't think that we're apart. It's just how we do it. And I don't think that we should lose this motion, if you like, or you lose the cross-party support element of this motion through something of this sort, because it's the principle that lays behind it more than how we do it.
Right, we are taking up quite a bit of time with this one. I thought this would be an easy one. You see, it's so silly of me, isn't it? And now Officer Blacks would like to speak before Councillor Black.
So the terms of reference for the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, item 3, to make reports or recommendations to full council or to the Cabinet about one or more particular issues, services or matters which affect North Norfolk and its residents. Reports or recommendations may be carried out on whatever issue, service or matter the Scrutiny Committee thinks fit, and may be carried out on any subject if the full council or the Cabinet requests it to do so. I think the question that is raised by the alternative wording and the position outlined by Councillor Dixon is, how is that different to the position the authorities previously adopted in asking the Overview and Scrutiny Committee to report or receive comments or progress by the East of England Ambulance Service in respect of the response times in the coastal area of the district, and that, I understand, has been taken forward through Overview and Scrutiny Committee, such that is there any difference with respect to the matters now raised and request for a response by Anglian Water? I ask that question. I don't necessarily have an answer, but I think the position is very similar.
We have Councillor Blathwaite, then Councillor Pearce, and then Councillor Sarah Fitikova. We must, please, I'm going to have to give you a little bit extra time because we've taken a lot on this one. So very quick, please, Harry, and quick, Nigel, and quick, Sarah.
I'd just like to say, I think Overview and Scrutiny is the correct vehicle for this. We are not talking about one-off occasions. We're talking, these are not storm occasions. These are slight drizzle occasions. We have at Knackers Wood in Horning an almost continuous discharge of foul water into the River Ant. At Hovton, we have Hovton Great Broad, which is red listed as the most foul broad. And I was looking at trying to find reasons why this would be. And I saw a report from North Norfolk District Council in 2011, where it was proposed about development in Hovton. And at that time, Anglia Water actually said that they could not sustain the levels of sewage being emanated by these developments. Well, since 2011, there has been a huge amount of development in Hovton, and nothing, as far as I can gather, invested by Anglia Water in dealing with the sewage. And it seems to be aiming for Hovton Greater Broad. So I think this is such an important issue that it can only be dealt with by Overview and Scrutiny on a regular basis.
Thank you. Councillor Pearce.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm as political as anybody else. This is a political chamber, but this amendment is not political. It is merely, I think, strengthening the cooperation, the communication between this council and Anglian Water and other bodies with officer interpretation on what should be done. And Madam Chairman, I recall with you being chairman of the Development Committee, it wasn't so long ago, that we held in abeyance a proposal for development because of the water sewage and goings on at a certain site, in which we asked Anglia Water to get their act together.
Excuse me, councillor.
So the situation is surely.
I'm so
So-
sorry, Nigel, there was somebody's phone going off and it happened to be our chief executive. So would you now?
Well, may I say, Madam Chairman, that was quite a timely intervention. It hasn't put me off my stride. I will go back.
Nothing ever does.
The point is, Madam Chairman, this is not a political amendment. And the fact that it's drawn such a response, an interested response from the party that has the administration, I think it deserves merit and care and consideration. The Overview and Scrutiny Committee is the right one. All we're asking is that these people get themselves together and report to us at North Norfolk District Council when these things happen. It's safety of residents, it's safety of people. Surely that is what we're here for.
Thank you, Nigel. Sarah, our leader.
Thank you. I hadn't intended to say anything tonight, but I just was looking at this amendment, and I do think we do pride ourselves on trying to work cross-party here. So I'm pleased that Councillor Lloyd has felt able to remove the U-turn. I'm not sure I would have done that. But where we come down to this point here, I would like to propose hopefully a middle ground for everyone to feel that they can get behind then this motion, and say that this council requests that all sewage water discharge events are immediately reported to the Environmental Health Department by Anglia Water, and then consolidated into periodic review of sewage water discharge events in North Norfolk on their agendas by engaging with Anglian Water with the Overview and Scrutiny Committee.
Shall I?
Yeah.
I think the position that we're at now is that the motion has been presented and an amendment has been proposed and I believe seconded. In the first instance, council needs to vote on whether they agree to the initial amendment proposed by councillor Cushing. I think there are two.
Can I just, in order to expedite things, if we want to keep the removal of the U-turn, withdraw the part 3, but then go with the suggestion of Councillor Butikofer, would that be a quick way through this? We'll withdraw it, or we withdraw it, then resubmit a different member, which then the first part is removal of U-turn and then goes with the wording suggested by Councillor Butikofer.
Good heavens, right. I said I was being thrown as the Christian to the lions, didn't I? So now, is there anybody else before I ask Councillor Withington to speak? Anybody else? No? Right. You want to vote on that first? Well, Councillor Withington is the second. No, oh God, right, okay, here we go. So can we have a vote then on the amendment that has been proposed by Councillor Butikofer? And
Don't I need a
Councillor
seconder?
Cushing has, right, who's seconding? Councillor Cushing, right. And just, are we taking in, is the U-turn just being removed anyway? Right, fine. So we're removing the part 3 as it stands and putting in part 3 as Councillor Butikofer has suggested. Have I got it there? Have I got there now? Got there. Can we have a show of hands? All those in favour? No. All those against? And abstentions? Right, thank you. It's unanimous. Thank you. I don't know what I did. Councillor Withington, would you like to speak now on the main motion? On the main motion, yes, we will. Yes, please.
Lost. Right, okay. I think it's unfortunate that today we found ourselves in the position where we've got an environmental bill process which is lacking in rigour. And the opportunity to make the vital changes necessary in our health and climate emergencies. So the Duke of Wellington's amendment to the Environment Bill was ironically supported by the water companies, which made it very clear that they wanted that duty to reduce sewage discharge into our blue environment. And that they also wanted the target levels to be achieved and put my teeth back in, specific timescales to be set. I think it's, important that we did vote on this tonight and support what we're trying to achieve here. So rather than a direct responsibility being placed on the water companies, we've now got an indirect duty, not backed up by legislation, to only mitigate the adverse impact of discharges. We have an enforcement system, which our person who Elaine Addison put in her comments earlier, and she referred to the fact we have an Environment Agency and an Office of the Environmental Protection that actually has lost a lot of its capacity to inspect, let alone enforce. So the fact that we're asking Anglian Water to come here and to give us their figures, to actually say what's actually happening and for us to be able to work with them is a major step forward that's not supported by the current environmental bill. We don't have the CSO, the combined sewage outflow data for all year round information from Anglian Water. So again, that was a really important thing behind this motion, that we work with them to make sure we actually do know what is happening in this district. Part of that is knowing when and where those discharges happen. We need transparent all year round data and we need real-time data. Anglian Water are moving towards this, but we have that responsibility to hold our local water company to account and be confident that the right priorities have been identified. Anglian Water agree that the CSOs are no longer fit for purpose. And for this reason, they supported the Duke of Wellington's initial amendments for the bill. It's clear from the government's climb down from the figures of £600 million were reckless. And it's sad that this figure hasn't been questioned more closely. Anglian Water welcomed this motion and the opportunity for Peter Simpson, the Chief Executive, to come, provide that transparency and be accountable for the changes necessary and for ongoing accountability. They accept as the local authority, we need to be confident about sewage outflow data and to protect our vital blue environment. So I think the motion that we've passed today goes some way towards that. And hopefully, in keeping with also what Elaine Addison said, I think it will put us in a position, if we do have the relevant real-time all year round data of what's going on in our district, it will give us the ability to lobby and to put pressure further higher up the food chain where we need to get things done to move forward on combined sewage outflows. So thank you for voting for the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Lloyd, do you wish to wind up? So to speak.
I thought we were done now.
No, well, you're allowed to come back. You're allowed to come back if you would. You don't have to talk if you don't want to.
No, well, I'm pleased that we managed to find some middle ground with this and get cross-party support for it.
Yeah.
Took a little bit of doing. I would urge Councillor Cushing to come and speak to me earlier in the spirit of cooperation so that we can do this. I do maintain that this is very suited to scrutiny, and I'm glad that part is included. And I completely disagree with Councillor Dixon's comments on this, on having called in the ambulance and the police and other people like that. It's perfectly appropriate to call in people like the Anglian Water. So I'm not quite sure where he's coming from with that, but never mind. The motion's passed. So thank you very much for your support.
Right, now we're going to go for a vote on the amended motion. Okay, so do we wish to hear the amendment again, or are we? Yes.
So that the amendment is firstly without the U-turn in.
Yeah, yes, yes. So can I just say, Sarah, before you start, the first amendment is to remove the U-turn, and then this is the second amendment in section 3.
That's correct. So the second amendment is this council requests that all sewage water discharge events are immediately reported to the Environmental Health Department and are then consolidated into periodic reviews to be undertaken by the Overview and Scrutiny Committee of the sewage water discharge events in North Norfolk on their agendas. That's the bit I was just trying to sort the wording out of here. And asking them to report to NNDC on the progress and investments being made.
Okay, are we taking this in? This new amendment in, everybody? Okay, so can we go to the vote? This has been proposed by councillor Lloyd, seconded by councillor Withington. We're voting on the amended motion. Could you please raise your hands on acceptance? I think that's unanimous. That's unanimous, and that's been passed. Thank you, everybody. I knew we'd have one that would cause problems. But that's a very good motion, and I think we are basically, everybody's in agreement here, especially where I live with the outage into Stanham's Day. Right, we now go on to section 17, exclusion of press and public. I don't think we need to do this, and I don't believe there's any private business. So thank you, everybody. We have finished at 7:50. So good evening.